Hello everybody, this is Money Mom. Welcome back to the channel. Just a little history lesson today, and I actually did some research on this, so I hope you find it interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about the economy during World War I, which was from 1914 to 1918. Many of you may know about this, but there was one thing that surprised me about this, which I'll get to. Many of you probably know that this war, many of the countries went into a lot of debt for it. It didn't put them in a good place economically. So that's one of the big things. And part of the reason why is it's expensive to have a war. For all those men out there in the field, they had to have medical supplies, they had to clothe them, they had to feed them, they had to have shelter, and it took quite a bit of money to do that. There was a lot of rationing going on, doesn't surprise you, and there were days even for people that weren't in the war that they would have meatless days. That doesn't surprise us, but one of the things that I read about was that they used a lot of inferior ingredients in food. For example, if you were going to have a loaf of bread, as a filler they might use sawdust, things like that. And so there was a lot of food shortages going on, and also people just had to ration, and you only got some small amount of food, so you had to make it last. And I'm sure because of that they didn't waste anything. You guys know we've talked a lot about food waste. I think many of us have an abundance of food. Not all of us, but many of us do. And we may not use all the food that we have. Well, back then they used every bit of it. Even if it wasn't good quality food, they would find a way to use it, even if it didn't taste good, because that may be what all they had. So that was a big part of what was going on. And like I said, it did put the United States in a big debt. It did provide jobs, though, for people that were working the war effort. They were really trying to promote war bonds to be able to help out the war effort, so that was something else. The unfortunate thing, though, is when many of these guys got home from war, because all the jobs, a lot of them were dealing with the war, there were not as many jobs available. Now, as we get further into the 19th century, they were getting more and more industry type jobs, which is good. But at this time, there were still quite a few people that had farms, so there were not as many jobs, and many of the guys that were coming home were injured. They had to be taken care of. And so it was a really, really tough time. It just kind of reminded me that there were a lot of hardworking people that were out there working, and they were going without things. They were having to reuse things. And, if they had a, pair of shoes that had a hole in it, they would patch it. They wouldn't say, oh, these are kind of uncomfortable, I want to get a new pair of shoes. You might have only a couple pair of clothing to wear. You might have a ratty winter coat. You just made do with what you had, and you used ingredients for things that would not be something you and I would want to eat. But they just made do to do the best they could with what they had. Now, next week we're going to talk about the 1920s, which is a time for prosperity, but they went into a lot of debt, and it was built, the 1920s, a lot of it was built on credit and speculation, and we'll find out what happened. And this is the thing that I didn't know. I didn't know a big reason that they had the Great Depression that started out after World War I. But one of the big reasons that they had it was partly because of the debt from World War I. That's not the only reason, but that was part of the reason. And so next time we're going to find out all about the 1920s and what happened during that time. And I just was speaking to my husband about this, kind of off topic, but kind of on topic. It's really easy during a prosperous time, even in our whole own life. We call it the lifestyle creep. It's so easy when we're prosperous and the economy's booming and things are going good, and you've got more work than what you know what to do with, and we're spending. In my personal opinion, is when you are really blessed with a healthy income and you're making really good money and you've got more work than you know what to do with. To me, that's the time to really make sure that you're prepared, because just like anything, the economy is kind of like a roller coaster. It goes up and down and then straight up and down. That's just the way it goes. And we want to be prepared for times such as 2008, 2009, when we have more of a recession. We want to be prepared for that. Well, we'll find out next week what happened in the 1920s. So I hope you're enjoying this series. If you would like to add some notes and some information about World War I that you want to educate us on, because I just went over a quick overview, I'd love to learn from you in the comments below. That's all for now. This is Money Mom signing off, and as always, I love you. Bye-bye.